Krishna, welcome everyone to our Gita class. Start with the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Shvapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पतिं गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यं जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we are continuing the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. In the 8th chapter, we have seen that 8th chapter begins with Arjuna's questions. In the last two verses of the 7th chapter, Arjuna had a few questions. Arjuna could not understand some terminologies like what is Brahma, what is Adhyatma, what is Karma, and then also further terminologies like what is Adhibhuta, what is Adhidaiva, and what is Adhiyagya. How Adhiyagya is residing within our body. And the last question is that how can a living entity remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death? So at the beginning of 8th chapter, the Supreme Lord gives answer to Arjuna's queries by defining these terminologies, giving the meanings of Brahma, Adhyatma, Karma, Adhibhuta, Adhidaiva, Adhiyagya. Adhiyagya is basically Paramatma, and how Paramatma is residing within the body at the region of the heart. And then the Lord answers the last question of Arjuna, which is how can one remember the Supreme Lord at the moment of death? So the Supreme Lord says, if you are practicing throughout your life to remember the Supreme Lord, throughout our life we have so many duties, occupational duties to perform. Along with those occupational duties, if we are able to remember the Supreme Lord and we are doing that practice, it requires a bit of practice. Otherwise, the whole life will pass and we will say, I do not have any time to chant the holy names, to remember the Supreme Lord, to read the scriptures. So we have to practice. How can we do our occupational duties and at the same time we should remember the Supreme Lord also? So the Lord gives this solution. How can one remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death? Yes, this 7th verse is of the 8th chapter. So initial verses they are defining the different terminologies which Arjuna could not understand. Now 7th verse is answering the question of Arjuna, how can we remember the Supreme Lord at the moment of death? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhya cha mayyarpita mano buddhir mameva shasya samshayam. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhya cha. Not only at the moment of death, but sarveshu kaleshu. All the time, you should do what? Mam anushmara yuddha cha. The Supreme Lord is telling you should do the yuddha. That means you should do your occupational duty. Arjuna was a Kshatriya. Therefore, his occupational duty was doing yuddha, war, battle. But for us, we may have different occupational duties. So we should do our occupational duty. At the same time, Ma Manushmar, try to remember me, try to find some time for the Supreme Lord in our busy daily life. And also, while we are doing the materialistic activities, we should have the motivation that we are doing it for Krishna. In these two ways, we can always remember the Supreme Lord. Ma Manushmara Yuddhacha. And if you do that practice, Mayarpita Manobuddhir Ma Mevaisha Shashamshaya, at the moment of that, surely will come to me. Because whatever you will practice throughout your life, at the moment of death, that particular thing will be manifested. If you are meditating on money throughout your life, at the moment of death, you will remember money. So, whatever state of consciousness we are cultivating throughout our entire life, that state of consciousness will appear during the moment of death. So, the Supreme Lord answered all these questions. Then there are two sections or two different ways of remembering Krishna. Remembering Krishna by Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Here, yoga means Ashtanga Yoga. So, Ashtanga yogis are mixed with a little devotion. They remember the Supreme Lord and they get liberated from this world. Whatever you do, you need the help of devotional service or Bhakti Yoga. Otherwise, no other yogic process is successful. This is the statement from Bhagavad Gita. And another way of remembering the Supreme Lord is by pure devotional service. If you are doing pure devotional service, you do not need the assistance of any other yogas. But if you are doing a yoga, any other yoga, Ashtanga Yoga and all, you need Yoga Mishra Bhakti to get liberated. But always this pure Bhakti is superior to Yoga Mishra Bhakti. This is 100% pure Bhakti. And in Yoga Mishra Bhakti, Bhakti is there in little quantity, but then you are practicing other yoga. So you can get liberated. If your devotion is strong, not strong enough, you may not get liberated. There are so many things. So the Supreme Lord is telling that it is easier for you to practice pure devotional service. Then the thing becomes, liberation becomes very easy. Ananya cheta satatam yomam smarati nitya sattashaham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yogina. For a pure bhakti yogi, I am very sulabha. I am easily attainable for a bhakti yogi. But for other processes, I cannot guarantee that. So the guaranteed way to get Krishna, and getting Krishna means what? Getting self-realization. You will have self-realization, you will have God realization. There will be nothing for you to know in this entire world. You will be free from all doubts and confusion. You will be eternally happy. And you will unlock the original potential of the soul, Satchidananda. So that is the meaning of liberation. And that is possible in Bhakti Yoga very quickly. In other yogas, it is little difficult and also not guaranteed. So that is the essence. In these chapters like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, these 6 chapters are the core of Bhagavad Gita. And throughout these chapters, Krishna will systematically establish the supremacy of devotional service or Bhakti Yoga over all other yogic methods. After explaining all different yogic processes, establishing the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga, at the end of Gita, Krishna will also give an option to Arjuna. Whatever you like, you can choose. I will not force you. I have explained everything, the pros and cons of every yogic process. Now it is your choice. Jathechhashi tatha kuru. But Arjuna, being a first class student of Bhagavad Gita, he chose the path recommended by the Supreme Lord, that is Bhakti Yoga. Arjuna says at the end of Gita, Nastamo hasmritir labdha tat prasadan mayachyuta sthitoshmi gata sandeha karishye vachanam tava. Whatever you say, I will perform that. You have recommended Bhakti Yoga, I will do that. In the mood of devotion, as an offering to you, I will execute my Kshatriya duty of fighting in the battle. So that is the essence of Gita. Now in this chapter, so we have covered, so the primary topic being discussed here is remembering Krishna at the moment of death. And how to remember Krishna? By Yoga Mishra Bhakti and pure Bhakti. There are two ways, but pure Bhakti is recommended way. Now we'll see the material world versus spiritual world, the next section, and path of light and darkness, the last section of this chapter. So this section basically why material world versus spiritual world comes here. This comes to show us what is the need for liberation. We are telling again and again that if you remember Krishna at the moment of death, you will get liberated. And that remembrance is very easy by devotional service. So the whole point is to get liberated from this world. But why? What is the problem with this material world? Why should I go to the spiritual world? So the comparison between material world and spiritual world will come. Verse number 17. So this is just to give a motivation. Krishna is trying to motivate us that why you should aspire for liberation, why you should practice whole life. Krishna just told, right, that you should practice remembering me throughout your whole life. Then it is very easy to remember me at the moment of death and get liberated. But what is the motivation? Why should I aspire for getting out of this material world? So that is given. Already Krishna gave this motivation that material world is dukkhalam ashashvatam. This material world is full of misery in the verse number 15. Krishna says, but if you get liberated, you will not have to come again in this world. In this material world, we have problems like birth, old age, disease, death. These are not desirable by any human being, but it will come for certain. Also, there are adhyatmic klesh, miseries due to our own body and mind. The bodily problems, health problems, mental problems, depression, like that. Adi bhautik klesha, misery is due to other living entities. I am doing well, my mind and body is okay, but other living entity is giving me some pain. Somebody told me something and I became upset, or I got a snake bite and immediately I am admitted to the hospital. So misery is given by other living entities. That is called Adi bhautik klesh. Adi daivi klesh means misery is due to natural calamities like drought or flood or any other like earthquake, warfare, like that, any natural calamity. So from verse number 17, we'll read. The theme is material world versus spiritual world. What is the difference? Sahasrayuga pariyantam aharyad brahmano viduhu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vido jana. So in this particular verse, the special theory of relativity by Albert Einstein, we know time, dilation, length, contraction, all of that. So this verse was spoken by Krishna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra 5,000 years ago. And this shows that time is relative. Albert Einstein got the Nobel Prize around 1850s, but this was spoken 5,000 years ago. So it says, Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyat Brahmano Vidu. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. So 1,000 ages taken together. This age means Mahayuga. There are 4 yugas: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga. And combined, these 4 yugas combined is called a Mahayuga. The duration for Kali Yuga is 4,32,000 years. The duration for Dwapar Yuga is 8,64,000. The duration for Treta, 12,96,000. And the duration for Satya Yuga is 17,28,000 years. If you combine them, it will come around 43,20,000 years according to human calculation. So that is one age or one Mahayuga. And 1,000 ages taken together means 43,20,000 times 1,000. It comes around 432 crore years by human calculation. That is the duration of Brahma's one day. Day means here the daylight portion, not the night. And such is also the duration of his night. So 432 crore years according to human calculation is 12 hours for Brahma. And another 12 hours is Brahma's night. So one whole day for Brahma is 864 crore years according to human calculation. So our universe is designed in a way that there are 7 planetary systems, right? Let me share the Goloka chart. You can understand better. So there are 14 planetary system that was created by Brahmaji. It is called secondary creation. Okay. Yeah, so this is Golok Vrindavan, Vaikuntha, and this is the spiritual world. And this is material world. At the junction of spiritual and material world, there is Karanadokoshay Vishnu or Mahavishnu. The living entities who wants to come to this material world to enjoy independently from Krishna, enters into the body of Mahavishnu, and from the bodily pores of Mahavishnu, millions of universes are generated. Now, science is like, there are different scientific theories regarding multiverse and all, which so science is partially trying to come to the same conclusion. Initially, it was Big Bang theory, then there are a lot of modifications. Now, scientists are telling that no, there was another universe before this universe. Big Bang is not the start. So many theories are coming up because this is Anuman Praman. So there are three kinds of Praman. So, one is Pratyaksha Praman, Anuman Praman, and Shabda Praman. Pratyaksha Praman means direct perception, whatever we see with our senses. We tend to believe that. But sometimes we may be wrong. Like in the desert, we see mirage. We think it is water, but it is not water. So sometimes our direct perception may be wrong because our senses are not perfect. They have their imperfection and limitation. And then there is another Praman called Anuman Praman. I am not able to see or I am not able to hear, but I can guess. I can guess what is inside the atom. I do not know. For a long time, like modern science did not have the resolution to see within the atom because it is such a tiny scale that our like scientific instruments were not able to penetrate that. So at that time we could not see what is there inside atom, but scientists tried guessing. That is called Anuman, and therefore different theories were formed and they got evolved. The theories are evolving, and the previous theory becomes obsolete because it is uh, it is a guess. We do not know definitely what is there inside atom, but it is a guess by observing some data. It might be wrong. So similarly, regarding the creation of the universe also, there are different scientific theories because it is not observable. But in the scriptures, it is called Shabda Praman. Because the Supreme Lord has created, in the scriptures, the whole process is explained very nicely by the Supreme Lord. So it cannot be wrong because the Supreme Lord has created. There is no doubt. The Supreme Lord does not have to guess that I think this is how universe was created, because he has created, and the Vyasdev is a literary incarnation of the Supreme Lord. It must be right. So as per the Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures, Mahavishnu, from the bodily portion of Mahavishnu, different universes are manifested. And then Mahavishnu enters each of these universes, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. And from the navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, a lotus stem sprouts, and in the lotus stem, Brahmaji is born. Now, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu teaches Brahmaji how to do the further creation, secondary creation. Mahavishnu created the universes, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu entered. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu created all the necessary elements for creation. Now, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu gives the knowledge to Brahmaji how to create with those elements. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaya Muhyanti Yat Surya. So, in the heart of Brahma, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu manifested the knowledge. And then Brahmaji divides the lotus stem into 14 planetary systems. We are in the middle planetary system called Bhuloka. Earth is situated in this planetary system. There are 6 planetary systems above: Bhuvarloka, Swarloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, and 7 down: Atal, Vital, Sutal, Talatal, Mahatal, Rasatal, Patal. Okay. So the speed of time varies in all these planetary systems, and that is the special theory of relativity. The time is relative. The time in the reference frame of a person who is standing is different from the time in the reference from a person who is moving close to the speed of light. If you even if you're like walking, time will be different for you, but that will not be observable. But if you are moving close to the speed of light, the time difference will be measurable. Okay. And then in the general theory of relativity, it is also told that if you go near a object with like very strong gravitational field, time slows down. So the speed of time can vary as per your velocity and also as per the strength of the gravitational field. So there are different factors which can influence the speed of time. Before Einstein gave this theory of relativity, nobody would have believed, like in the era of Newtonian physics, nobody believed that time is not absolute, but time is relative. Everybody believed that time must be absolute. So that time, if you present this scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, people will think this is mythology. But now when we have the knowledge of theory of relativity, like it is not a mythology for us. We know that this is possible. This is not impossible. Similarly, like when we hear that Abhimanyu in the womb of Subhadra was hearing the knowledge from Arjuna how to enter a Chakravyuha, and then Subhadra slept. Abhimanyu also slept inside the womb, and he could not hear the knowledge how to come out of the Chakravyuha. So initially we may think this is mythology, but there is a medical textbook in which the authors write. Let me show you the statement. I can find. This is directly from a medical textbook. So these are all presented in the DYS seminars, Discover Yourself. So this is from a book, Diseases of Ear, Nose and Throat, Head and Neck Surgery by P.L. Dhingra and Shruti Dhingra. So this is a textbook for ENT. In like if you study MBBS, they will teach you this. So the authors in this text, medical textbook, they say the cochlea is developed sufficiently by 20 weeks of gestation, and the fetus can hear in the womb of the mother. This probably explains how Abhimanyu, while still unborn, could have heard the conversation between his mother and father in the legend given in the great Indian epic of Mahabharata written thousands of years ago. So they are like they are professors of medical college or they are doctors, right? So they are not some person who is studying Bhagavad Gita or a Hindu person who is in a mission to establish Gita somehow. But they are commenting this that in the Mahabharata, the story might be correct because now with the development of science, we are seeing that it is possible for a Kali Yuga soul to hear from within the womb. And not only hear, the Kali Yuga soul can also clap.
Hands, if you're happy and you know it. And your face will show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
So the a Kali Yuga soul inside the womb of mother can identify the rhythm of the music being played outside by the parents, and he can clap as per the rhythm. So not only he is able to hear, but he has also developed a sense of rhythm within the womb while still unborn. This is the condition of a Kali Yuga soul. Then why is it impossible for son of Arjuna? Arjuna is a like superhuman. Arjuna defeated Lord Shiva also. So why is it impossible for son of Arjuna in Dwapar Yuga? Dwapar Yuga was more advanced than Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, Kali Yuga is the worst Yuga. And we do not have any qualifications in Kali Yuga. Srimad Bhagavatam says, Prayana alpayusha sabhya kalau asmin yuge jana manda sumanda matayor manda bhagya upadrata. Kali Yuga people are worse in all ways. Manda sumanda matayor, their intelligence is worse. They are always disturbed by physical problems. They do not have any inclination. They do not have right determination, discrimination. Everything is faulty for Kali Yuga person. Still, they are able to achieve this much. Then why it is impossible for son of Arjuna to hear from inside the womb and remember, actually learn the lesson? It is not impossible. So the scriptural statements seems impossible, mythological, imaginary when we do not have knowledge, proper knowledge. If we do not have experience of something, we think this is imaginary, this is not possible. But we should be open-minded that I have only observed a tiny portion of the entire universe. There are many, many phenomena which may happen and which I do not know. So we should have that humility, and with a broad mind, we should accept the words of the scriptures which are directly coming from the Supreme Lord. So anyway, this particular verse shows time dilation. So we are in Bhuloka. If we go up towards the Satyaloka, abode of Brahma, the speed of time slows down. Only 12 hours in the reference frame of Brahma is 432 crore years as per earthly calculation. If we do not go like to the topmost planetary system, if we only go 2 steps higher to the Swargaloka, then also speed of time decreases, but not as much as Satyaloka. As per the calculation of Swargaloka, 1 day in Swargaloka is 360 days in Earth. So the speed of time slows down gradually when you go up, and when you go down, the speed of time increases. So this is also science, and the universe is made in a scientific way. And this verse actually says that. Okay. Now, verse number 18. Avyaktad vyaktaya sarva prabhavanti yah ragame ratyagrame praliyante tatrai vyaktya samangyake. At the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state, and therefore, when night falls, they are merged into unmanifest again. So it says that every day of Brahma, according to earthly calculation, is 432 crore years. Then, when it is night for Brahmaji, partial dissolution happens. What is partial dissolution? So, from the body of Mahavishnu, millions of universes are manifested, and Mahavishnu expands himself as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. From the navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, there is the lotus. And during the day of Brahma, this lotus is manifested. During the night of Brahma, this lotus gets submerged into Garbhodaka ocean. Not the entire lotus. The upper 3 planetary systems, Satyaloka, Tapaloka, and Yanaloka remains. Remaining 11 planetary systems are submerged into the Garbhodaka ocean. That is called partial dissolution. And during that time, our earth is also annihilated. In the next day of Brahma, again this lotus rises above the water level, and again earth is created and Brahmaji functions. This is like whenever we go to office, we switch on the lights, we open the window pane, we open our laptop, we start working the whole day. And after work, we close the laptop, we close the window, we switch off the lights, we lock the door, and we go to home. So similarly, every day of Brahmaji starts a new creation. And throughout the day, Brahmaji works. And during the night of Brahmaji, everything again collapses. So why Krishna is speaking about this Brahmaji's day and night? Just to establish the fact that material world goes through repeated cycle of birth and death. This is not a permanent place. But spiritual world is very different. So just to show the contrast between spiritual and material world, Krishna is bringing this point that material world goes through a repeated cycle of creation and annihilation. This is the biggest difference between material world and spiritual world. Bhutagrama sa evayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratyagame vasha partha prabhavatyah ragame. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, the living entities come into being, means the creation, secondary creation happens. And with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. So again and again, bhutva bhutva praliyate, means repeatedly this material world is created and annihilated. Okay. Now Krishna will bring the contrast. What about the spiritual world? Parastasmattu bhavanyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. Yet there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifest and unmanifested matter. In this material world, we have many things, but yet there is another unmanifest nature, which is the spiritual world, which is beyond the material creation. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that past remains as it is. Now, if you remember, I told, with every day of Brahma, there is secondary creation, and with night of Brahma, there is partial dissolution. So why I'm using this word partial? Because there is one complete dissolution also. Every night of Brahma, there is some amount of dissolution. Apart from the upper 3 planetary system, everything gets destroyed, and again, in the next day of Brahma, it is created. So every day of Brahma, this lotus rises and goes into the water, rises, goes into the water. Every day happens. Now, Brahmaji lives for 100 years as per his reference. Now, Brahmaji's one day Means Brahmaji's 12 hours is 432 crore years in earth. So similarly, if you double that, it will become Brahmaji's one day, 864 crore years. If you multiply that with 30, it will become 1 month for Brahma. If you multiply that by 12, it will be 1 year for Brahma. If you multiply that by 100, it will become the entire lifetime of Brahma. And if you calculate the entire lifetime of Brahma as per human calculation, it will come around 311 trillion years, 40 billion years. So after that, till the time Brahmaji is alive, every day there is partial creation and partial annihilation, creation, annihilation. But after the death of Brahma, what happens? The entire universe collapses and goes into the body of Mahavishnu. This is called complete dissolution. So every day of Brahma, what happens? This lotus rises from Garbhodakusha Vishnu, goes back, rises, goes back. But at the end of Brahmaji's lifetime, the entire universe merges back into Karanodakosha Vishnu or Mahavishnu. This is called complete dissolution. So whether it is partial dissolution is also repeated every day of Brahma, and complete dissolution is also repeated. With every breath of Mahavishnu, all the universes are manifested, and Brahmaji lives for 100 years, 311 trillion years, 40 billion years is only one breath for Mahavishnu. And again, when Mahavishnu inhales, all the universes goes back into the body of Mahavishnu, and Brahmaji, like Brahmaji's lifespan ends. So both complete dissolution and partial dissolution, they are periodic in nature. But what about the spiritual world? Spiritual world is not going through any periodic creation and annihilation. The spiritual world, spiritual planets of Vaikuntha and Golok Vrindavan, they're eternally there. They are never destroyed. Even when this material world is destroyed and goes into the body of Mahavishnu, nothing happens to these spiritual planets. So therefore, Krishna first of all says, you are looking for permanent happiness. First of all, in this world, you will not find happiness. In this world, 99% suffering and only 1% happiness. And that happiness is also temporary. If you want happiness, first of all, you have to go to the spiritual world and you will get permanent happiness there. In this material world, happiness is very small and temporary. In the spiritual world, happiness is infinite and permanent. Therefore, you should go to the spiritual world. This is the motivation. Verse number 21. Avyaktukshara ituktash tamahu paramam gatim yam prapyana nivartante tadhama paramam mama yam prapyana nivartante. By achieving my supreme abode, nobody comes back to this material world. That which the Vedantists describe as unmanifest and infallible. The spiritual planet, the Golok Vrindavan and Vaikuntha, they're unmanifest and infallible. Infallible means Achyuta, means they never undergo any destruction. That which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme spiritual abode. This is Golok Vrindavan. And what is the nature of this Golok Vrindavan? In Brahma Samhita, Brahmaji explains. In Brahma Samhita, Brahmaji explains the nature of the spiritual world. Chintamani prakarashadmashukalpa vriksha lakshavriteshu surabhirabhipalayantam Lakshmi sahasra satasam brahmasevyamanam Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis and Gopis. There is a more vivid description which comes in the latter verses, around 56, I think. So there it is said, Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Druma Bhumischinta Mani Ganamayi Toyam Amritam Katha Ganam Natyam Gamanamapi Vamshi Priya Shakhi Chidanandam Yoti Paramapi Tadasvadyam Apicha Sajatra Kshirabdihi Shavati Surabhibhyascha Sumahan Nimesharadhakyo va Prajati Nahi Yatrapi Shamaya Bhaje Shweta Deepam Tamahamiha Golokamitiyam Vidantaste Shantah Shiti Viralacharah Katipaye. So it says, I worship, Brahmaji is telling, I worship that transcendental seat known as Shweta Deepa. This is another name for the spiritual world, where as loving consorts, the Lakshmis in their unalloyed spiritual essence practice the amorous service of the Supreme Lord Krishna as their only lover, where every tree is a transcendental purpose tree. Kalpa Briksha, whatever you wish, the tree will fulfill, wish fulfilling tree. Where the soil is purpose gem, all water is nectar, every word is a song, every gate is a dance. The flute is the favorite attendant. Effulgence is full of transcendental bliss, and the supreme spiritual entities are all enjoyable and tasty. Where numberless milk cows always emit transcendental oceans of milk. So, first of all, this is another feature of the spiritual world. There is no conservation law in spiritual world. In the material world, we have conservation of mass, conservation of energy. Now Einstein says mass and energy are same thing. E is equal to mc square. So therefore, we have conservation of mass energy. Okay. So, but there is, so therefore, in this material world, there is no free lunch. We cannot get free energy. That is a like axiom of physics. But in spiritual world, everything is free lunch. So why there is restriction in material world and why there is no restriction in spiritual world? This is actually common sense. That the resources will be limited inside the jail, but the resources will be abundant outside. If you are a normal citizen, you can have abundant access to the resources. But inside a jail, the resources, the access to the resources will be limited. So therefore, in the Supreme, about the Supreme Lord, there is no restrictions. One cow can give infinite liter of milk. There is no conservation law. In material world, we'll think if the weight of the cow is W, then the cow cannot give milk greater than W. So there is no such physical formulas existing in the spiritual world. By everything happens by the Achintya Shakti of the Supreme Lord, inconceivable energy of the Supreme Lord. Anyone can do anything in the spiritual world. Where there is eternal existence of transcendental time, who is ever present and without past, future, and hence is not subject to the quality of passing. Time does not pass in the spiritual world. The speed of time stops in the spiritual world. We have seen in the material world, in earthly planet, the speed of time is very high. If you go to Swargaloka, it slows down. If you go to Brahmaloka, it further slows down. If you go to Vishnu, Karandakushai Vishnu, it further slows down. And if you cross the Brahma Jyoti and go to the spiritual world, then the speed of time ceases. The realm is known as Goloka only to a very few self-realized souls in this world. Okay, so this is the nature of the spiritual world, which is quite different from the material world. The nature of the material world and the spiritual world are completely opposite. This will again be discussed by Krishna in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where this material world is compared to a banyan tree, but reverse banyan tree, like upside down banyan tree. We'll explain that later. Let us complete this chapter. Purushasha para partha bhaktya labhyastvananyayam yashantasthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. There is no other way. Although he is present in his abode, Golok Vrindavan, he is all pervading and everything is situated within him. It's not that the Supreme Lord is there in the spiritual world, therefore he cannot be there in the material world. All these limitations of space and time does not bound the Supreme Lord. We are bound by the limitations of space and time, that we cannot be there at the same time in different spaces. We cannot be there. But the Supreme Lord can be. He can expand. He is there in the Golok Vrindavan also. He is there as Karanadakushai Vishnu also. He is speaking with Brahmaji as Garbhodakushai Vishnu also. He is there as Kshirodakushai Vishnu also. And he is also there as Paramatma inside everyone's heart. He is also there inside every atom. Eko pyasho rachetum jagadanda kotim jatchaktirasti jagadanda chayadantaha andantarastha paramanu jayantarastham govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajan. So simultaneously the Supreme Lord can be everywhere. This is the all pervasive quality of the Supreme Lord. Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yogina prayatayanti tam kalam bhakshami bharatarshabha. A waste of the Bharatas, I shall now explain you the different times at which passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. So now a brief comparison of the spiritual and material world is done, and a motivation is given why you should remember Krishna and get out of this material world. Now Krishna will say that why it is important to take up the process of devotional service in remembering the Supreme Lord. Till now we have got the motivation. So you see that how systematically Krishna presents. But if you just read the verses without knowing these explanations from our acharyas, you will not get the nectar of Bhagavad Gita. You will see everything disconnected. Krishna speaks about Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Then Krishna switches to material world versus spiritual world. Then Krishna says, what is the way, path of light and darkness? Everything will seem disconnected. Some 700 disconnected verses you will get. But if you read the commentaries by our acharyas, therefore ISKCON is designing different courses like Bhakti Sastri and all. So whatever I am speaking, all my notes are compiled from all these Sastri courses like Bhakti Sastri, and I have also heard from many senior devotees who have read about all the commentaries of the acharyas. So therefore, it is very enjoyable. So therefore, Krishna only says in Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshana. Only reading the scriptures is not enough. Even if we read the scriptures, we cannot understand anything. If we are not taking shelter of our acharyas, like Srila Prabhupada, like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and what Srila Prabhupada gave us, in the purport of Srila Prabhupada, all the acharyas and their commentaries are combined. So because we are doing it weekly once, we cannot go through the purport. So therefore, I am summarizing the verse. Okay. As per I have read from my seniors. So this is very interesting. Krishna says, first of all, Krishna gave this motivation, material world versus spiritual world, why you should remember me at the time of death and get out of this material world. Now Krishna says, why you should accept devotional service in the process of remembrance. You should also take up other processes like Yoga Mishra Bhakti and all. Why you should focus on devotional service. That motivation Krishna will give now. So Krishna says, Agnirjyotiraha Shukla Shanmasha Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Vidoyanam. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain the Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god in the light at the auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, during 6 months when the sun travels to the north, Uttarayan. So if someone passes away from this world in all these different mentioned tithis or moments, like in the presence of daylight, when there is Agni Yoga, influence of the fiery god is there, and also during the auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon or the Shukla Paksha, and during the 6 months of Uttarayan, sun traveling northwards. We also see in Mahabharata, Bhishma Dev had the capability of Ichha Mrityu. He could decide the date of his departure. So then Bhishma Dev waited for Uttarayan because passing away in Uttarayan is considered to be auspicious. So if someone dies in all these different auspicious moments, they will not come back to this world again. Okay. Now, completely opposite to that, Dhumo Ratris Tatha Krishna Shanmasha Dakshinayanam Tatra Chandrama Samyotir Yoga Prapya Nivartate. Till now, the connection is not clear, right? What is the motivation of this section? That Krishna will establish why you should take up devotional service to remember Krishna. Just see how Krishna establishes. Initially, by reading these verses, we'll see what is the connection of passing away in auspicious moments with establishing the fact that you should take up devotional service. but it will become clear very soon. The mystic or the yogi who passes away, this yogi is not a bhakti yogi, an ordinary yogi, who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, the 6 months of Dakshinayan, again comes back to this material world. So the point Krishna is trying to establish here, if you are an ordinary yogi, not a bhakti yogi, then along with your yogic practices, your success depends on a random variable called when you will die. That is not in your hand, but that will also play a part. Suppose you have practiced your yoga sadhana very nicely, but unluckily, unfortunately, you passed away in an inauspicious moment. Then again, you have to come back. Although you have done your sadhana very well, so there is a risk for other yogis. Even if other yogis are practicing their yoga sadhana nicely, they have to depend on this random variable or luck, that whether I am passing away in an auspicious moment or not. But for a bhakti yogi, there is no such consideration. That is the point being presented here. Shukla Krishne gati yete jagata sarvate mate ekaya yatyana vrittim anyaya vartate puna. According to the Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. The auspicious and inauspicious, and that is explained in the previous verses. When one passes in light, he does not come back to this world, but when one passes in darkness, he returns. For an ordinary yogi. Naite Shriti Parthayanan Yogi Muhyati Kaschana Tashmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukta Bhavarjuna. Although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. So, for a bhakti yogi, it does not matter whether you are passing away in Shukla Marga or Krishna Marga. If you are a devotee, you will certainly go to spiritual planets without any other consideration. You do not have to depend on the random variable called the time of death, because Krishna gives this guarantee. Krishna gave this guarantee 8.7, right? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yuddhacha manyarpita manobuddhir mam evaishasya asamsaya. Krishna gives this guarantee multiple times in Gita. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evaishasya satyam te pratijane priyoshima. I promise you, you will come back to me. Krishna says in another scripture, Baraha Puran, that if my devotee has practiced devotional service throughout the life, and even if the devotee is not able to remember me at the time of death due to some problem, but because he has practiced devotional service throughout the life, my devotee is not able to remember me, but I will remember my devotee and I will bring him back to the spiritual planets. Yadi vatadi doshena madbhakta mamna cha smaret aham smarami madbhakta nayami paramam gatim. If my devotee is not able to remember me at the time of death, but he has practiced devotional service throughout, I will remember him and will bring back to the spiritual world. And the last verse says, therefore, the position of a bhakti yogi is the supreme. This is how Krishna establishes the supremacy of bhakti yoga. Vedeshu yagyeshu tapashu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. There are different activities spoken here. Studying the Vedas, doing yajna, doing tapasya, doing charity, and other different pious activities. A person who accepts the path of devotional service or who becomes a bhakti yogi is not bereft of the result derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. This means that a person practicing devotional service automatically gets the benefits of all these things. He does not have to endeavor separately for all these things. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all this, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. So, practicing devotional service like a complete package. You get everything together. You do not have to like endeavor for all these things separately and then separately endeavor for attaining liberation. Devotional service is a complete package, bhakti yoga. So, therefore, Always Krishna's recommendation is practice Bhakti Yoga. That is the essence of Gita. Even in Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures also, Krishna says emphatically, "Na sadhayati mam yogo na dharma shankha uddhava na sadhyayastapastyago yatha bhaktir mamorjita." Krishna cannot make this more clear. Krishna is saying, "Na sadhayati mam." I am not satisfied by what? Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. Dharma, so-called pious activities. Sankhya, the analytical study of the matter. Uddhava, na swadhyaya, by studying the Vedas. Tapa, austerity. Tyago, by renunciation. But I am satisfied by what? Yatha bhaktir mamorjita. Devotional service completely dedicated unto me. I am only satisfied by pure devotional service completely dedicated to me. I am not at all satisfied by all other different processes. So Krishna cannot make it more clear. This particular verse is also part of Gita, but not Bhagavad Gita. It is a part of Uddhav Gita in Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll also study after we finish this Gita, we'll study Bhagavatam. Okay. So thus we completed the 8th chapter, which speaks about remembering Krishna different ways and which is the recommended way. And at the end, Krishna establishes the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So next week we'll start 9th chapter. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Pramanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.